Welcome to the TNF podcast. Like, comment, share, subscribe, click on that bell for notifications. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, give us a follow and give us a rating. That would be most excellent. I have a few things I want to promote. My friend, excuse me. I just took some BC powder. It's killing me. My friend, John Cuccinello from the bands OS 101, Hogan's Heroes, has this book called Come Inside and Meet My Punk Rock Family. It is a, as they call it on here, children's book for adults. It's a graphic novel that kind of features all the characters that John has encountered within the hardcore scene. You can pick it up at revhq.com. 12% of the profits will go to the St. Jude's Children's Hospital. So it's for a good cause. It's a limited run. So pick one up today. I also have a QR code that I'm going to throw up in the video for my friend Lou Collar from the band Sick of It All. As many of you know, he is undergoing cancer treatment and could really use your help with that. So please go on ahead and donate on the GoFundMe. They're also selling some limited edition t-shirts. Pete has them on his Instagram, Pete Sick of It All NYC. So go over and check those out as well. That would be most excellent. Thank you so much. My guest today, I've been following his bands for quite some time. He has been in the likes of Left 4 Dead, The Swarm, Cursed, Burning Love, and most recently SECT. And he's got a slew of other projects too, but I actually couldn't fit them all in the banners, so I'm sure we'll get into those. But he also works for, and I'm a big film guy, as many of you know this, Vinegar Syndrome, which they do these beautiful 4K restorations of kind of these obscure out-of-print films. So we'll get into that. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Wait, let me pull this up real quick. Okay, yeah. All right. Without further ado, Chris Colohan. Thank you so much for being here, Chris.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going, man. What's going on with you?
Not too much. Just in the door from work, ate some food, getting right on it here. Yeah.
I hear it, man. I hear it. Yeah. Vinegar Syndrome. That's pretty crazy, man. Like like I said, I'm a big fan of all their releases and whatnot, but we'll definitely get into that. My first question for you, sir, is what is your relationship with music? What did you hear in your household when you were growing up? Did you have any family members that played music? Did you play in any sort of high school bands? And then what was your first like non-metal, non-hardcore, non-punk concert? And then kind of how did that seg into you getting involved into that scene?
Sorry, I just already have a technical thing here. There we go.
Oh, no.
No, it's okay. When I was a kid, I know my family was really mainly just my mom and me. So musically, she wasn't super musically inclined. She was like a 60s, child of the 60s and 50s. So the Beatles and all that kind of stuff, which actually gave me a bit of a backlash against the Beatles. Just some like folk music and things like that. There's a couple things that she liked that imparted on me. Leonard Cohen probably being the one biggie. Paul Simon, some stuff like that. But it wasn't really a very deep dive. So there was a lot of things around my house that I remember from being a kid. Like I was born in 74, so my first memories of music and the things that were around my house were like Boney M and things like that, and the Beatles. And from there, I don't know, like my own relationship with it, a lot of things, like it sounds weird to say this, but early hip hop, like Grandmaster Flash, or some of the things that were first like coming through a radio when I was a kid. Stuff like that. And this always comes up in relation to punk, but the Boomtown Rats, like late 70s, early 80s, things like that, which was a little bit of like a traumatized vibe in a lot of actual just like pop music and radio music, like leading into the 80s. And I guess in the wake of Vietnam, in the wake of in the way that music is kind of a vent for, civilizational damage overall. A lot of things were like had a weird undertone to them, and I think as a little kid, even I think I picked up on that the world of adults, something was like grievously not right. So a lot of things that were in the water when I was a kid musically, whether or not they were in my house or just like on a radio or around me, really kind of sunk in and made me really curious about a lot of things. And were you asking like the first concert, or am I jumping ahead?
Did you play in any sort of high school bands?
Oh
Like I
yeah.
played trumpet in high school.
You know what? I played like not in the band or whatever, but in high school in music class, I did take up the trombone, and it lasted exactly until I realized how to go "Meh," and make a jackass noise every time. And that was swiftly cut off. And then I switched over to playing drums. And that's what I kind of really grew up doing, like on my own and at home. And then at the very beginning of playing in bands with like high school friends, it was originally drumming. And I had a lot of aggression as a kid. So it was like a good vent for that. Yeah.
Who kind of inspired you to pick up the drums? Which musicians?
Oh God. Back then, I don't know. I mean, it sounds so remedial, but things like ACDC, because when you're like in like the eighth grade you can do that shit, just probably the same with the way people pick up a guitar and play Smoke on the Water or something. Like it's just like really accessible, really
Sure.
driving. And that was a couple years before things like punk and hardcore got to me. But then when that happened, for sure, stuff like Black Flag, which is similarly like really played pretty straight but really driving, you know so
Yeah,
i've,
definitely.
I've,
And
I've got a lot
what
of
was your first? Go
guys.
ahead.
Oh no, I've got a lot of favorite drummers, but that came way later. So
Okay.
you know
What was your introduction to the live experience? What do you remember seeing like growing up? Did you see any of the bands that your parents got into?
Not really. My mom wasn't really like that. Um, but the first concert I ever went to, I don't know what grade I was in, but this is either embarrassing or cool. I'm not sure. Heart was Heart. Um,
Oh, awesome.
but it was like 80s Heart. So it was like, what about
Okay.
love kind of era Heart? But I think there was probably some
Uh,
Barracuda and all the
no
70s bands were
Barracuda.
still in there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Yeah. And I think the second thing I saw was the Cult on Electric. And that was a little
Oh
more
man.
awesome. And
Yeah.
I feel like it was maybe Lenny Kravitz opening it or something like it. Very, very
Oh
early
wow.
Lenny Kravitz. But yeah, the Cult, the singer of the Cult, even though he's British, for whatever reason, he had something to do with the place that I grew up in, Ontario, and he'd gone to high school there. So for some reason, Hamilton, Ontario has a really big thing for the Cult. And that was
Wow.
more significantly the first good concert I probably saw. Yeah,
Yeah, the cult's incredible. Like
absolutely.
that's something I didn't really discover later on in life was, bands that my parents appreciated that, I just kind of wrote off because I was into the aggression and angst of hardcore punk. And then you actually go back and you listen to some of that music. Like the Cult to me was always just like a radio rock band. And then I actually go and listen to it. I'm like, oh yeah, fucking Firewoman. That's a fucking
Oh my
badass
God.
song. So
The riffs are awesome. And honestly, Rick Rubin, anything that dude touched, if you think about the stuff that's gone through his hands, and Electric was him. But I mean, everything from Run DMC to Rain in Blood to like License to Ill, just so many waves of things, and they're all something in his production that just makes them so damn timeless. Like as performances and then as a recording, it doesn't. I mean, I guess it sounds like it's from then, but it doesn't sound dated in a bad way at all. It's like as vicious as
no,
ever to hear that. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. When did you start going to hardcore and punk rock shows? And then what was your first memory of that? What do you remember seeing as like a
Oh
first
man.
show experience?
The first thing I saw, like where I grew up, was like about a half an hour, 40 minutes outside of Toronto, and it was like a factory kind of a city. It was a little bit nasty, a little bit dark, kind of self-deprecating, a little bit like maybe Clevelandish, like an Ontario kind of a Cleveland. Um,
Okay.
but all the weird kids end up kind of banding together for survival. So like, and the common thread, if it was a Venn diagram, would just be skateboarding, because that's like freaks, goths, punks, and eventually the odd kind of straight edge like hardcore kid. And someone that turned out to be one of my best friends later and one of my first roommates was dating a friend of mine, and he was in that whole world. Uh, and I went out to a show that was kind of a battle of the bands. But it was a really primitive chokehold. In fact, I guess I heard after it was their very first show, and other friends of mine's band from high school that had nothing to do with that. So that turned out to be the first thing I saw, and it felt so wild. At that point, I was already into like punk and as you know in general, like the Clash and records like that, Exploited stuff like that. But this was just like weirdly, I mean, like violent, like hectic, but violent in a way that was like a release that wasn't like the violent that I had to deal with in life and in
Right.
school and the city. It was just like almost like a co-opting of violent that was like a fucking sandbox to take your shit out and with your friends, and that immediately hit me so hard. I'm like, I would like to do this forever. And here we
Yeah.
are. And here we
Yeah.
are. So
Like a controlled chaos then.
a consensual chaos. Yeah.
Consensual chaos. Yeah. There you go. There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah. Good wording for sure. And with straight edge, was that something that you found, was it, because certain people, they will kind of abstain from drugs and alcohol, and then they come upon the hardcore and punk rock scene, and then they find straight edge. They're like, oh, this is something that I already was, and there's a whole subsect of people within this musical scene that believe and live the way that I do. Was that kind of your situation, or was it you found it
No.
through music? No.
No, I was the quite not that actually. No, I was just like a punk kid. I got into all the usual things growing up. But I know what you mean because there's a lot of kids, and most of like the hardcore kids at the time, which seemed like such a big kind of mob of people, and was probably like 20 people that individually were all fine, but together collectively it felt a little bit like judgy, I guess. To the kid just in an SNFU shirt, just chain smoking at a chokehold show, or no, I did those things like drugs weren't really big for me. Like I did it. I mean, I did like mostly things just like pot and hash and stuff like that, but mostly because I drank a lot and I was a little too good at it too young. So no, it wasn't something that I already spoke to. It's something I was looking for, but I was definitely someone that was open to what I could do better before things got the best of me, just like as a control. And that definitely was a challenge that I accepted, not because of a scene of people or not because of any person. I owed it to anyone else. So I didn't even go that fast, but over the course of like a year or so, I thought on it a lot and I kind of pulled myself out of it. Because I don't know, I don't like to be dependent. And a lot of things were in my life that I grew up with, and religion was one of them, and alcohol was one of them, and television was one of them. And it really was like a moment in punk subculture too that was very like early 90s. I guess it was almost like a reaction to the grungy slacker world. Like, what can we do better? Not just like about being angry at the world, but what every last thing that we can do better, we can tweak our own lives to however we want them. And so I think just discovering that I could not do a thing, something I could get into not doing, I thought was pretty cool and felt like a little bit of your own power in that. So I don't know. I cut all those things out kind of on a dime. I mean, like it took a while, but I mean, I did them like smoking. It was really hard. I grew up smoking, and I just kind of stopped when I got really sick one New Year's Eve, and I was in bed for like a week, and I just pretended I had a head start, and I just made myself stop. Like when I finally stopped, it was on a dime. So yeah, I just would rather have more to show for my time, and I loved records, and I like books, and I like things, and didn't ever have a ton of money. So when you're young and you're being an idiot, I kind of think you should. Like I'm still like sober and everything now, probably because I did that. Look, when I know what I'm not doing and why, and that would be the
Right.
same for me now. And I don't take it for granted. I don't take it as like some weird superhero cliche of strength. It's not. It's not at all. Like I'm very much. I get stressed out. I'm dying for anything to make it better and make it easier. And I know those things would really do that for me in an instant, but then they would have to do it and do it and do it. And my personality is such that it's, not very, not moderate. So it was just easier for me to never do something again than to trust that I could kind of do it a little bit. And it just let me
Right.
focus on more things. And that's when band life kind of took off, and it just like getting involved in a culture that filled the void that I think substance abuse does for people. So I didn't really need it, you know. And then
Right.
I grew to, I don't know, I like life this way more, you know. But
Yeah.
I have dreams when I get stressed out. I have dreams about smoking cigarettes, which tells me that's still in my head, like however, you know, 3 decades later is still like what that would be for me now, you know.
Sure.
So everyone's
Yeah.
on
I
their own
I
path, but yeah,
I
go ahead.
understand totally. I've been in and out of addiction, relapsing, coming up on 3 years clean and sober here
Wow,
myself. And I
congrats, man.
still have, thank you. I still have times where, like you said, waking up and thinking that I'm in some sort of drug stupor or something like that. And it's absolutely terrifying. And I
Yeah,
absolutely commend anybody that has gone through the thick of it, whether it be smoking, alcohol, narcotics, or whatever, and can come out on top. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. And, with straight edge, sometimes, like with yourself and the members of SECT, there's the veganism that works kind of in tandem with that. Was that something that came later as well? And what kind of motivated you to pursue the path of veganism?
no, I was already vegetarian. I had a girlfriend in all through high school that also was. So that was already halfway there in terms of like
Mhm.
just like idealism, you know, it was like like we were saying, what could I do better in my own life, or what can I cut out that I don't want to support? Like when it first hits you that you have the choice to not do things. So going vegan from there was just like finishing going vegetarian, really, you know, just like completing what I'd started. And that was actually the person I mentioned, our friend Zach was. He was in bands. Do you ever remember Burst of Silence? That ever mean much to you?
No,
They're
not
like a
familiar. No.
7 inch or two. They were terrific. And Christian that played in Cursed was in that band. It was all a very small world of people. But
Okay.
yeah, no, we lived together, and he was vegan, and that I don't know, just it was like, and it was not even that easy then compared to now. God damn, like the options for things. This was like 1994 in like a factory city in Ontario. It wasn't like
Oh God.
really bad primitive hummus in a dented tin, and you know, like the old ways, which Jimmy from
Right.
SECT, Jimmy that plays guitar in SECT always calls it vegan suffering when we talk about like the 90s stuff. There was vegan suffering, but it built vegan character, and now we're living in the
Oh,
future. Yeah.
yeah. It totally was. And I remember, when I lived about still at present about 20 minutes north of Charlotte, and there were no vegan options here. There were none. And so it was like there was a Whole Foods that was like an hour away. And so you had to drive an hour to go and get, food that would be cold, that you'd have to put in a cold bag that would preserve the, if it was frozen or whatever, and
Yeah.
I think it was I think it was Jimmy actually, because my band had played with Undying a few times, was talking about, oh man, it's just so hard sometimes on the road. You just end up eating garbage a lot of the times, like.
90s tours, I would find like I'd go to a grocery store and there'd just be like peanut butter and celery and tahini and carrots. And that was like a month of my life. I did like it though. I still do. Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, at least it's a healthier option as far as like with vegetables and tahini and stuff, because there is the alternative where it's just eating garbage, and there's so many vegan products that are like, oh, this is vegan, but it's all just a bunch of bullshit. It's just like,
yeah, I know.
yeah, it's ridiculous, So, but yeah, the 90s, I came in at the trail end of that era, but the 90s vegan bands definitely kind of trailblazed for, I would even say, modern veganism, in that I think if there was no Earth Crisis, if there were no vegan bands of that time period, that there wouldn't even be mainstream veganism. I think those
agree.
bands, okay, perfect. I think that those bands brought so much awareness to the plight of animals that it kind of permeated into mainstream consciousness and made it, you'll see like athletes and actors that are vegan, and even politicians at this point. And I think that the hardcore bands of the 90s really kind of laid the groundwork for that. Those people might not recognize it, but I definitely do.
Oh, you know what? And I know because I know Scott had worked in a lot of like places that distributed vitamins and early like health food products. But like growing up in the early '90s, I can say like the establishment for stuff like that was mostly like hippies, was like older like students, but all the people that kept it going all the way through were like older vegetarian associations and old vegans, like kind of hippie era ones that were still holding out. So
Yeah.
really, yeah, you're right. It's if there had not been a thread, the through line of that in subculture, it probably would not have got to the point that it did. And honestly, Earth Crisis for sure. Like, I came to very much appreciate that. That was they played one of their first weekends out at in Hamilton at a house like a living room, tiny show, but a lot of really influential things happened, and it was. I think All Out War. Maybe they had like the early version, like maybe not even Victory, the Conviction 7-inch of All Out War. So it was like that early for them too. But the fact that it was so over the top, like say what you will about that, but that is like overshooting it so far is like the extremes of it. And the seriousness of it is what people pick up on, you know, and what like 10 waves of kids, you know, like I can't think of much aside from maybe Morrissey or the Smiths or like Meat is Murder that had that much of an impact specifically about like animal consumption. So
Mm.
good on them, you know?
Yeah.
And it still is like it's still working the same way. So
Yeah. Yeah.
extremes can be really good.
Morrissey's a good one too. Yeah. That was he
Yeah,
definitely brought a lot of awareness to that as well.
yeah.
What do you think? You grew up in Toronto. What do you think about the Toronto scene is unique from the rest of the country or the rest of your country, the rest of the states, and the rest of the world?
We had a really interesting. Okay, I was born here in Toronto, and I grew up in Hamilton, just outside Toronto. I moved back here in my 20s, so I've been back here for the bulk of my life for like 30 years. Um, but Toronto was really like even Hamilton. I think I was very lucky the moment that I jumped into it, the very beginning of the 90s, because it was so like talky, so argumentative but constructive. It was very like nothing was off limits, nothing was sacred. Um, and there was something in the water with the chokehold people specifically who really did like kind of create something out of nothing in the city that we were in. There wasn't like a wave before that was like that. It really was like a big gap. There was old punk bands, some bands from the 80s had come through there, but they really did kick something new off for all of us. Um, but they were really, it was very like, I don't know, anarchism oriented mixing with, so it wasn't the normal kind of a scene in terms of like vegan or straight edge things that were like it wasn't puritanical, it wasn't dogmatic, it was very anti-dogmatic. So that was the moment overall, and everybody, it's a small world, and it still is, even though it's a big city, and everybody knows everyone. But there was a lot more like punk involvement. The older kids that were decent to you, just it meant a lot. And in Toronto, there's people that are still my friends. There's Steve Perry, a friend of mine that does a radio show called Equalizing Distort up here, and he's done it for decades and decades, just like the most absolute lifer. They had a band called One Blood that was on, I think they had a record on Gurm Blanston that Charles and Rorschach put out. Just the way people talked, it wasn't like so divided into a million scenes. Like it was all the same shows. So I think that everyone, it wasn't really clicky. Like it was pretty smart. It wasn't really big. I don't think we all took it for granted. So I think that really changed it. It wasn't in places like in the States where scenes will be really huge and everyone will have a lot of little pockets and corners to go to. I think where I'm from, everything sort of cross pollinated. And even by the time my own bands like the Swarm were playing, there weren't like, we were a straight edge band, I guess, in theory, because we all were, but we weren't like sportswear kind of straight edge band, or like there was
Right.
no one else like that for us to play with. And we weren't trying to play with ourselves. You know what I mean? No, like we would play with like garage punk bands, our friends' bands, you know, street punk bands, metal bands. We played with like Madball. We played with like a million Ringworm. Like we play whatever. So I think that really helped because it doesn't feel like anything is not your part of your world. It's all the corners of it. You know, we use the whole animal. You know, and still do.
Yeah.
So
That's something interesting about New York was that there is not a lot of crossover between their scenes, even in specific boroughs of the city. Like
Yeah,
there are bands that will never play with each other just because they're so almost tribal in a sense. And it's
yeah,
not, I don't think always comes from like a defensive or like a negative position. It's just, it's a big city and there's a lot going on there,
yeah.
and they just don't really intersect very often.
It's
So
true.
yeah, I found that really interesting.
Yeah, and New York is a bit of a special case too, because it just sort of becomes like it just attracts. It's because there's a feedback loop happening with New York and hardcore, where it's sort of like it gets treated like the center of the universe, and then some people take that and it makes their heads really big, and it's sort of like they cut off from the world around them. And you probably know certain people. I mean, I don't need to get into it here, but yeah,
Sure.
getting old is getting
Yeah.
old, I guess. Uh,
Yeah.
Old people and the internet never did mix very well, man. But I don't know. There's a lot of great. My favorite things out of New York were more stuff like Life's Blood and Nausea and Kraut. Like, there was a lot of really like Urban Waste, like really punk-minded hardcore bands. I think that's the stuff that always hit me the most. Or Victim in Pain and stuff like that. And Sick of It All was huge for me too, growing up. Anyway,
uh Chronologically, your first band was Left for Dead.
my first one that recorded and did a lot. I had a band with my high school friends that I at the very beginning was drumming just because nobody knew what we were gonna do, and then ended up singing. But the first one that really like kind of got around and did stuff and recorded and made records was Left for Dead. Yeah.
Okay. What was sort of the genesis of that band? How did you came together in high school, and then kind of how did it unfold from there?
It was just really after high school. It was three quarters chokehold when we started Left for Dead. And I was the one quarter that wasn't Chris Logan, their singer. Still a good friend. That we always got confused, the two Chris's of a very small scene for all through the 90s. Um, we just like there was nobody really left, to be honest. When Left 4 Dead happened, I know it's like in retrospect it might seem like it was a bigger deal than it was, because like the reunions and everything were like wild and huge and all that shit. But when we were playing in real time, it was like 20 kids in a basement kind of shows. And Hamilton, I mean, that whole I was talking about just like the crowd, the scene of people. And this is pretty normal too, but everyone kind of grew up in a way in the span of a couple of years. So the difference between who was around by the time I was like when I was 17, by the time I was 20, they were already like nowhere to be seen. So it was really just a few of us, honestly, kind of amusing ourselves, just like for just doing it for our own fun, because there was not a big scene or world around us. It was us and a handful of our friends, and we never went very far from our city. So we just Jeff and I were friends, um skateboarded a lot and just got into trouble and brainstormed things to do. And we went on a road trip, I guess it was 96, whenever the Olympics were, with the Unabomber, because we had to go to Atlanta. We stayed with Jeff J. Jock and a whole bunch of people.
Oh wow.
We just went on a road trip. We went stopped through Philly and we stayed with the Ink and Dagger guys and just skateboarded with everybody and hung out. And in the course of it, we were just like conceived of this thing, and we went back and we would jam in Jeff's parents' house, which is the same as Chokehold did, in their basement. And we wrote almost all the Left 4 Dead songs in like a day. It was all like an afternoon. I was drumming and Jeff was playing guitar. I'm just like, did it fast, good enough. Next one, next one, next one. We just did it like that. So that was really it. We weren't really thinking at all, you know? That
Right. Yeah.
thoughtless.
I mean, you guys put out some pretty bitchin' recordings, man. And as far as Chris Logan and Goodfellow, I've always been curious, and I don't know if you're the guy to answer this question, but whatever happened to Goodfellow Records? They had such a really impressive discography. Like, I remember I had the Season of Fire record. That was fucking awesome. And like, they did one of a few bands down here in North Carolina. They did this band Bludgeon, and they also did this band Quell down here. Yeah. Oh, you remember them?
Yeah, I do. Like a gin. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Chris, he just did a really good job with that label. He had worked for an Ontario, kind of like an indie band, like distributor and label called Sonic Onion up here. Um, and they were kind of backing Goodfellow. So I think some of what happened with the catalog had to do with the legalities of that. But
Oh,
just in terms of him and his label, though, yeah, it was great. And when Kirst ended up going back with him, it was kind of very intentionally to go back full circle to the beginning and our friends from it. I think
sure.
that he's in the process of possibly getting it going again right about now. I think there's some
Awesome.
Goodfellow activity after a long slumber about to happen. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do with it too.
Oh hell yeah! I
Yeah.
love their little logo with the guy with the teacup on the back.
Yeah.
That's initially what kind of like drew me to it. I was like, "What is this?" You know, like this is a cool picture, you know. And then I kind of checked out the catalog a lot, and just a lot of really solid, like killer hardcore releases. What was that? A Shogun? They did a Shogun. That was one
They
that
did so many good things.
Blessing the Hogs. Holy
Yeah.
shit! What a great band. I wish that band had done more.
Billy Anderson's, right? Was that? Yeah.
Oh, somebody, I read somewhere that it was like ex-members of Neurosis or something like that.
I think it would be that.
I don't know.
Billy Anderson, the producer that did like High on Fire, Neurosis, A Million, Jawbreaker, like a really wide bunch of records. I'm pretty sure that was his band. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they were sick. I wanted to hear more from them and just never did. So who knows? Maybe with this Goodfellow I guess the band would have to be active first.
That's true. You do need that. I know that I can say Chris is playing currently there's a new project from that whole camp of people, Sandy, that played guitar originally, like one of the original Chokehold guitarists, called One to Blame, after the Slugfest song One to Blame. So I think
nice.
They've been recording. I think it might even contribute some backup, some vocals or something to it. I think your timing is good, because I think there's about to be a new rash of things from that world of people.
Oh yeah. The man's got impeccable taste as far as what he decides to put out on his label. But all right, so with the Swarm, you guys were, I would say you guys were a little bit more kind of in the vein of metal, in that you definitely kind of rode the breakdown a lot on some of your songs, which was kind of different from Left 4 Dead. Left 4 Dead just kind of came in and hit you and was out, like what was the story behind that band? What prompted you guys to get that one started?
I went to college right out of high school, and I didn't stay in what I was in for very long because it didn't suit me much. But at the time, I got to know Kyle, that played in the Swarm from grade and everything. And yeah, I don't know. Mike, that drummed and ended up drumming in Cursed as well. He was a bit younger. There was a lot of like younger kids. We just kind of got to know each other, and we liked doomy sort of things. I mean, Kyle has a lot to do with it. He was writing that first Swarm stuff. But the time and place really, like, this sounds like a weird reference, but stuff like the first Godspeed, You Black Emperor, like we're in Ontario and that was in Quebec. So things that were a little bit like apocalyptic, I don't know if it comes across much, but like things like that were the stuff we were listening to, and a lot of like doomy sort of hardcore. But I mean, Kyle's writing has a lot to do with like the direction, like just kind of evil and dark and gloomy, but angry. I don't know. We didn't really think that much about it. Just, I mean, he came up with a lot of the riffs, and that directed it to where it went.
Whenever organically came to the table, you guys just kind of ran with.
Yeah, pretty much.
I hear you, man. Excellent. And then came Cursed, which was actually how I discovered your work. And I just, again, imagery is something that really kind of captivates me and takes me in. And I actually think I saw your t-shirts before I heard any of your music, and like the goat's heads and things like that. And it was just like, holy shit, what is this band? Let me check them out. And still some of my favorite hardcore records to this day. Like I think Cursed 3 sounds like, I've always equated this to like, take a cat and throw it in a cardboard box and shake it around. That's what it sounds like, Right. And everybody's like, yeah, that's pretty accurate. Sure. I don't know.
Damn.
But I don't know, that might be a little, but I mean that in a
It's
totally
the
good
eye of the
way. Like,
beholder, man. There's no wrong answer.
right,
That's
right.
it's what it
No,
is for you.
I love it. I think it's a very kind of stripped down recording, and I really appreciate it a lot. And with the choice of the album names, like 1, 2, and 3, like did that come from uh like Led Zeppelin? Was that inspired by, like, you know, how they did 1, 2, 3, 4, or
It was
did
probably
you?
more like Danzig.
Okay,
Like it wasn't that intentional anyway. I think we just couldn't think. I didn't want to think about like titles every time, so we just like it's this one, it's that, it's another one, and we just got as far as 3. But probably
okay.
if there was an influence in there, it was probably Danzig more than Zeppelin.
Oh, I meant just as far as the naming convention.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But
Okay,
the
all right.
imagery, where you're to speak to that, that's probably. I mean, that was mostly my department. But just as that's what happens when like a horror nerd ends up doing all the layouts for his band stuff, and you get saw blades and heads and cut off heads and horror movie stuff just endlessly taken.
Yeah, you guys had a Omen T-shirt too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I did one with
Yeah.
Vincent Price. It was a curse poster that was like a Vincent Price thing where he's holding a Bible, and I flipped the cross upside down on it, and we did like a really neat black on black silkscreen poster of it, and the only thing you could see was the cross, and then
Oh,
in the light you see the rest of it. But yeah,
I gotta. Oh, you don't have any of these anymore, do you?
I actually might. I
Oh,
might be able to sort this out for you. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
fantastic.
Let me
Yeah,
have a
no,
look.
all right. I love, yeah, Vincent Price. He was awesome. I
Yeah,
love all those old Universal, you know, Hammer horror movies.
all the way
Old
with Hammer.
Mario,
Yeah,
yeah,
Bava.
Mario Bava, yeah,
Yeah, for
yeah. Of
sure.
course, Black Sunday, Black Sabbath. Yeah, definitely. Uh, so you know, you guys did a really good run with Cursed. Why did Cursed come to an end?
Oof. It was a little cataclysmic. Uh, as things were getting maybe bigger or whatever externally, they were really imploding for a very long time internally. There was a lot of like addiction stuff happening. Like we all roughly came out of, I mean, straight edge lifestyle wise, if not, you know, like super flag waving wise. Um, and then as people kind of changed, which absolutely happens, we kind of tried to keep it going as if it didn't make a big difference. Like, okay, that's you, this is me. Let's just keep doing our shit. But it turns out it does make somewhat of a difference when it's to those kind of extremes. So it was, I don't know, it's a pretty depressing story, but people hit the, I don't know, hit a wall, kind of burned out. We got robbed. A lot of things were going really bad. Honestly, even while recording 3, which you know, the very last song, that outro that's just instrumental with a sample over it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was like, as much as there's not a word of a lyric in that song, that I'm yet to even listen to it again because it's still just in my head. Like I know what's going to happen, but it's like I can't really listen to those records. But that really takes me back because that just even being like just in guitar alone form felt like that moment felt like just this is at the end of
This
something.
is it.
And that was a year before we knew that was happening, but it was like it was happening. So
Okay.
yeah, dysfunction, I guess, that was very far gone.
So it was an issue of there were some members that had some addictive issues, and then that kind of collided and made it more difficult to kind of coexist.
No, we kept coexisting when we probably shouldn't have. And it just like kept going until it like a calamity happened in Europe on tour. Um it was bad. There was cops, there was stolen passports and the entire tour's money.
Oh
Which
God.
and it wasn't just like fucking us over, it was more like our friends had like Reflections put the record out. Our friend Tomas drove us. Like it fucked over everybody else that was like really good friends of ours.
Oh geez.
That was a part that was really like the end of everything. That was just like there's people in that band I haven't seen since then, since that day there overseas.
Oh geez.
It was a rough one, but it's very It was very suitable for Cursed. It went down in very real flames, very suddenly, and not suddenly. But yeah, there's that.
Did you guys ever do a reunion show or anything?
No, and it probably
No,
won't ever happen. And the
won't
Swarm, but
happen.
by the virtue of being the same couple people, um, yeah, somebody's got to not do it, you know. And I think it's
Right.
us. There's just things, and I'm saying this is the guy that's still involved in hardcore, you know, and like I wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And others may very well want to do it because it would be a thing. And we were asked to do things over the years. I'm like, that's not even getting beyond me because I wouldn't be doing it.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Things have their own lifespan, and some things when they're that fucked up, that's just that, you know. And some people are
Yeah.
honestly like off the map, in a bad way, like
Right.
homeless, institutionalized. Like it's incredibly bad. Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. I mean, I'm the same way. If I can't reconcile my differences, no, amount of money or desire or anything like that is going to get me to do something that I don't want to do. And
Yeah.
it's unfortunate that there's, things like that happen, because there's certain bands that people have wanted to see in the past, and just because of bad blood or whatever situation between band members or what have you, like that just isn't going to happen.
Yeah. And I think when you play in bands too, like this is still my life. I think it may be more of a thing for people that like hadn't done it since, they were 25 and then they put their guitar away and never looked at it again. That might be different for somebody like that now, like Glory Days shit. But I'm usually, even like Left 4 Dead was fun. It shouldn't even have gone as far as we did with the reunions. It could have been like a couple weekends and got the good ones out of the way, but it got like crazy a second time because we did it too much.
Sure.
But I don't know, even when that was happening, I was playing in Burning Love, and I mean the shows were cool. They were just these big festival, like 20-foot stage that's just like, this is not, wasn't our reality. And it's cool because like there's a lot of people that got into that band that never got a chance to see it, and that was mainly for them to be able to.
Sure.
But it was like, man, I kind of want to be in the basement I'd be in now with Burning Love, and now like SECT isn't, we play basements too. And
Sure.
I'd generally rather always be doing what is from now, as long as it still is my world, and it is still my world. So
Right.
that's why, that's my
Right.
thing with reunions. There's stuff, if you're still friends of people like Ruination, we're all friends. Countdown to Oblivion, other bands, we're all still friends. Half of the Swarm, I see Kyle all the time, Matt, other people from that band, but you have to really like feel it. It can't be for money. It can't be, I don't know. It has to have a good enough reason. So I
Yeah.
drank a little bit of the Kool-Aid. Burning Love did a reunion last year, and that was different because they were a lot younger than I was, even when we did that, which was the tail end of Cursed when things were getting really dark. And
Right.
I was intentionally wanting to do something that was a little bit lighter and fun. And it eventually got
Yeah.
kind of heavy just thematically. That's on me. But yeah, same thing. Like those kids were like in their 20s and now they're this much older. And it was fun to do like a one-off thing. And we may do like one more weekend of it, but that's not going to go on further than that. So I don't know.
Sure.
If you still have things to say, you just should focus on what you're doing from now, because it's not a novelty,
Right.
That's how I
And
look at
with
it.
Burning Love, yeah, I remember Cursed had come to an end, and then it was like, oh, Chris has a new project, Burning Love. And I was like, let me go check this out. And it was a little bit of a pivot from Cursed in
It had to
that,
be.
like you said,
Yeah.
like you said, it was lighter. It definitely had kind of more of a, I would say even like a 70s kind of punk vibe. And it was
Cool.
more like upbeat and just
Yeah.
very like, I remember bands like Bars. Do you remember that band?
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
bands like that kind of had the rock punk, like hardcore kind of feel to it. It was
Yeah.
very, like you said, just upbeat and fun.
Yeah. There was Bars, Suicide File. There was a lot of bands that just wrote
Suicide
bangers
File.
that were super fun.
Yeah.
Burning Love wise, it was a matter of throwing like two different generations of people together to see what would happen. And they loved stuff like the Hot Snakes and grew up on things like that. And I grew up on things like Black Flag. And I do feel like there's a through line that connects those. So Burning Love was like kind of meeting in the middle of that, and just fun rocker shit to see. Like it had to be something that felt very different and felt like
Sure.
enjoyable, like music should have
Yeah.
the whole time. But Curse got very heavy, personally heavy to do, So it took a lot of a toll.
Well, and sometimes bands can be a catharsis for the heavier shit. Like you can
Yeah.
definitely kind of get out, you know, feelings and aggressions and things that you're dealing with, and with SECT, which Scott Krause came on the show, and thanks to Scott for helping to set this up. You guys have compiled a bunch of members of some of the greatest bands in hardcore and punk rock, and you
Thanks.
guys are really doing something awesome. And I love those recordings because it almost feels like I was like, oh, this almost sounds like it's in the vein of Cursed Again. And I
Shit.
understand that I understand that like Jimmy was kind of going for like a his hero is gone feel, and Scott was saying that he had never listened to his hero is gone, and so he just kind of followed along with Jimmy and was like, this is kind of the sound you guys
Yeah.
got. And there was a song that you guys have, and it's called Day for Night. And I was like, Day for Night? I know what that is. That's a filming term. When you go out there and you film out in the daytime and you try to capture a feeling as though it's at night. But it was actually about like people that are dealing with like prescription medications and mental stuff and anxieties and whatnot. What are your kind of thoughts on that? Like what and with Hate 5 6, like you got to like a really vulnerable state where you were talking about being medicated and stuff, and from somebody that has also been in a similar situation. I've been on medications all my life. It has sometimes worked for better or worse. I don't really know, like, but I have mixed feelings about it too. So what kind of prompted the that
That.
song?
Well, uh, I guess in the broader context of Sect as a band, I'm generally always more interested and drawn towards things that are like it doesn't sound like it's experimental music wise, but as a project, it's experimental to throw a bunch of people together that come from different things. Like you said, Scott wasn't so, like on top, like his world wouldn't have been his heroes gone, tragedy, things like that. But they're very much connected, like a few steps away, but they're in the same yard. They're just different corners of it.
Sure.
So I really enjoyed that because I didn't know what I was going into. Like really, I didn't know the guys that well, other than I mean, like I knew Andy, and he was the kind of the common denominator with all of us. And I had met Jimmy. They'd stayed with us at the Swarm and house before when Undying had come through. Um, but uh, I don't know. Like I my ideas about straight edge too. This is why I really like playing in a band like Sect just now at this point in life because I didn't really jive with that scene in the 90s. Like I didn't through it. Like the Swarm wasn't, like an Earth Crisis show. Like they were very many worlds away from those kinds of things. Like as I don't know. So I like it now. I really appreciate everything about Sect because it lets me be like, what would my version of a straight edge song be? Because I never really wrote those like you have to do this. Like that's not me.
Right.
Like I can tell you why I don't want to do something, and I know that's all I need to do. I don't need to tell anybody
Right.
to be me, and I don't need to be anyone else either. So, all my life I've been medicated. Like I moved a lot as a kid. I had a very not stable or consistent kind of youth, and I mean, since all the phases of psychiatric, naming of things. There was like manic depression, bipolar. As it went, I was like ADD before the H. Just like Ritalin kid, antidepressants, just like zombie bullshit half my life. So
Yeah.
there was Swarm songs. Um, I specifically had a Swarm song that I did write about this, and I can't remember which one, but it was the same. Like I flush it all down a toilet when I feel super brave, because I'm like, I know I don't want to need this, but some
Right.
shit is chemical, and sometimes you're like broken in some ways that are very legitimate, and they're not. Sometimes you need to dig a certain amount of the way out of a hole so you can try to get to a better footing. So like when I can afford to, I often do that weird grandiose straight edge guy thing and like fuck this and flush it and then have to come crawling back a year later. If you've ever had to like hard detox suddenly like cold turkey your SSRIs, Jesus fucking Christ.
Oh yeah.
It's weirder than any drug I ever took when I was growing up. Like a
A
couple
hundred
days of
percent.
not sleeping for 3 days, weirder than probably acid. So I don't know, like with Day for Night, it was just like me being able to explore that idea again. Like that was particularly about a sleep study because insomnia is really my my niche in the greater expanse of
Yeah.
my life. Um, my mom would come downstairs and I would be in like the fourth grade and I'd be looking out the window at 4 in the morning, just like politely waiting for the morning. So that's it. I just had like a head that would never fucking stop. And that song is really just very literal. I went to a sleep study. They put wires all over you in your head, and they're like you're just straight up awake, laying there politely. I'm like, yeah, you get it. I'm just can I go? Like there's nothing ever stopped it, and I wish I could not be like that, but it don't doesn't work like that, you know. And you have to have
Yeah.
some patience with yourself, and that was a hard thing for me to learn. That it's not of course it's ideal to not need those things, and whenever I'm able through herbal natural remedies anything else, fucking great, you know.
Yeah.
I had CBD over the pandemic because I had a really bad back injury. That helped me get off of a lot of really heavy meds that I'd way rather have a plant, you know, if it's not like super
Right.
psychoactive, as opposed to like fuck benzos or things that I had that you're supposed to have for like 6 days that I had for like 8 years
Right.
that have a dementia risk, or things for ADD that are like straight up amphetamines. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
ever try cold turkeying that shit? It's fucking it gets wild. So
Oh
I'm in a
yeah.
pretty good place now where I've got it down to a minimum. Um, but that's I don't know. I try to take it as it comes for that because I if you're really hard on yourself and you're really black and white, that's really what sets you up to just be fucked and end up like more dependent and in worse things and heavier meds. So being able to
Right.
accept that you're a person and like I don't know. I guess I don't think about it in terms of like self love or patience, but it really is that. It's like, man, you can't help it. Shit happened to you. It left its mark on the way that you are. Do the best you can, you know, so you don't
Right.
burn out and do nothing. And music is still my vent for that. So Day for Night
Yeah.
and a lot of things in SECT let me approach, I guess, what would be straight edge songs from, but my version of that is something like that. That's like
Right.
vulnerable and honest. Like I'm honest about the things that make me livid my whole life and all the bands I play in, and they're not bullshit. They're like, I just have to explain it. And it's the same with something like that. That's just like, kind of breaks my heart. It's just like, well, this is this side of me. And it's equally, I don't want to bullshit myself or anybody else about it. So there's songs
Right.
too over the pandemic. There's stuff on the last SECT record that was just about watching when the shutdowns and the lockdowns happened. Like no one can leave their house. Nobody can go to an AA meeting if they're in recovery, but the fucking
Yeah.
liquor stores are open and have a lineup 3 blocks
Yeah.
long for 2 fucking
Fucking
years.
bullshit. Right.
Right. But that's my version of like straight edge for me is like, dude, you're not doing that person any favors. I mean, the line in the song is like, you're throwing anchors to the drowning, but it's like for money, you're doing this thing and you don't really give a shit about that person or what they're going through. They can't go to a meeting. They're going to do this for years, you know? So
Right.
that's my approach to straight edge. It's like punk, you know, it's like who benefits from this relationship, who has control, and how could you take that back? That's my interest, and that's really where it stops and starts.
Well, in straight edge, the definition has been so malleable over the over the years, and that some people think that you're not supposed to like it almost carries with it from a certain perspective from certain people like a religious connotation, like you can't have sex outside of marriage or don't be a whore or something like that. I'm like, where is this coming from? I think
Yeah,
Ian McKay just didn't want to
yeah,
do
fuck that.
drugs and smoke, and like
That's it.
like you said, yeah, exactly, like you said with the medication thing, there are some people that are so kind of extreme that they will not take Tylenol or anything like that. And
Sure.
with myself personally, like I know that I've been in some bad spots before, and I owe my life to pharmaceutical medication. I don't like it, but I
Of
accept
course.
it, and it's one of those things where I could tell the difference, like I'm I know that when it's 4:30 and I want to get on the internet and put like say a bunch of crazy shit, I'm like, oh, what time is it? Oh, I got to take my medicine. Like, so it's advantageous in that way. It kind of like levels me out, and I'm like, is this really worth it? But with that, your kind of situation, like, did you ever have any sort of like difficulty kind of reconciling with, pharmaceutical medication versus straight edge?
No, I just try to go without it when I can afford to, and
Mm-hmm.
suck it up when I have to, and try not to be a
Yeah.
superhero about it when the rest of the time, because that's
Right.
what lands you in a worse 180, and I don't want to do a 180. Like all those kids I knew growing up that were like super Captain Straight Edge were immediately like bar jocks by the time I had stopped drinking. And that was a useful lesson. I don't give a shit. It's fine. I don't need anybody else around me to know what I'm doing. That's you. This is
Sure.
me at all points, including now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I never thought about it like a track record that you could never break. Everybody I ever knew that was like that, with the exception of the 4 people I play in SECT with and a few others. I mean, I have a couple old friends that really stayed the course, but it's also not a contest like that to have never fucked up. Like that doesn't mean much to me, Like I just need, I need my friends. I need the people around me for my whole life through all of our ups and downs and twists and turns, Like I don't want someone drinks now, so we're done. Like that doesn't do me any good. That doesn't do them any fucking good. It's just dramatic, but for who? Like I'm fucking 50 years old. I don't need to impress anybody about this. I need my friends to be healthy and alive, and a lot of them aren't. So, that's the reason that's serious to me.
With Plagues Upon Plagues, SECT's latest album, Scott said that rather than approach the music thematically angry, that you guys kind of decided to approach it from a perspective of sadness. What was the idea behind that? Why did you guys approach it from that angle?
Okay. Well, the moment was, this is about, hardcore is about our reality, and this moment has been coming for a very long distance off. And so being around in anti-fascist circles half our life, and idealist and vegan ones, and just ecologically minded, lefty minded, progressive ideas, we're just like getting our asses absolutely kicked on every possible existential level now. And it doesn't change what we are, and it never fucking will. But we wanted it to reflect what now feels like. And like I was saying, like, I don't want to bullshit when I'm just like angry. That's real. But being honest with ourselves, and I guess honest with our audience for that, we actually kind of premeditated, like, this needs to sound like it feels. And right now there's parts in songs that even just say this too, but like, there's not a fuck you left in the world big enough to cover this. It's not just like an angry screaming face about like Trump or something now wouldn't really mean very much, but really reflecting on it, like, it's solemn. It's a fucking funeral, it feels very much like one. So that was really our way of saying, even this is not normal. Because if we just did some like cookie cutter rote hardcore record that's like, fuck you, that is kind of like half a statement. And the reality, like the whole picture is like, fuck, man, this is crushing. And it's still crushing. It's crushing every day right now. And we have literally this to get through it. So that was the theme with Plagues Upon Plagues. It is about the pandemic, like a metaphorical or like a actual plague, ushering in a social plague and a political plague that we're now very much stuck with wall to wall, no matter where you live. Like, it's not an American problem. It's a civilization problem at this point. So that's why it sounds like it does. There's still obviously half of it sounds like we usually would, but it's just like introspective and sad. So that was trying to sing like a little bit singy too was really scary for me, because I'd never done that. But I honestly was trying to like shake the frame and be like, yo, even this is not normal. Like, we can't even do this the way we usually do, like this, to snap ourselves out of it. Like, this is real. This shit is happening now. And I don't think that was 2 years ago we recorded that. I don't think we deny at this point. It's very much happening. So,
Scott, when we were having a conversation, I had brought up the fact that you know, the intro track sounds kind of like a doomy ballad, and that whole kind of that whole kind of like vibe kind of encapsulates like almost the whole album, even with, you know, some of the faster, more up tempo songs.
Yeah.
And I almost compared it to Neurosis.
Cool.
And he said that Jimmy was saying that
That's great.
Neurosis was kind of a big influence for him
Yeah.
whenever, you know, he was growing up, and then whenever he was writing that. What are some of the other kind of influences as far as you guys were going for, whether it was, you know, we already kind of talked thematically, but as far as musically, like, you know, bands you were kind of trying to dive into?
You know what? That's really Scott and Jimmy's territory because they do all the
Okay.
writing, riff and song wise. I just, yeah, I wanted it to be like a dirge, you know, and Neurosis is a great touch point for that. Just like it's intense, it's dark, it's serious, it's sad, it's loud, it's angry. They kind of took it from there and just made it what it sounds like. We just filled it all in with all our parts, you know, till it became what it
Yeah.
is. But Scott's great like that. Like it's hard. It's the first band I've ever played in that hasn't been like every song, every single Cursed or any other band I've ever been in just starts at zero and the song just comes up from zero to song in a jam space in front of someone. But we're in two countries and two coasts, and the only way to do this band was by a lot of remote control. So it was the first one that I've ever been sent like a record, like a full length album of songs, like make this. Like fuck,
Right.
write your part to this entire record. So it was a challenge for me, almost because those
Yeah.
guys are so like pro about that or whatever you call that. Like that's the way they're used to doing things, and it's me that was really like not. And Andy, obviously, like he's literally a pro. They're used to doing things the same way too, but I don't know. We just kind of threw it all in together, and that's what came out.
And as far as other challenges besides the distance factor, I think Scott had mentioned something about you having some issues or potentially having some issues getting into the country to play shows, because you guys played in Raleigh, North Carolina, God, probably a few weeks ago, and I actually wanted to go, but I couldn't because I was working. And yeah, I heard that there were some possible travel visa
Yeah.
issues, something like
Well,
that. Is that
the issue is not having one, you know. So like just doing this the absolute like informal way and having 30 years of like been having been just way lucky. And
Mhm.
over different points like Cursed had visas, but the visas really don't help you much. In fact, they have to give you grief when you have them, and they still don't really know what they're looking for. It's kind of infuriating, but there's no differentiation between playing like a basement and playing the Warp Tour. To them, they just go through like it's like IRS kind of bullshit.
Right?
So it's, and I mean Homeland Security and all that aside, but there's been times like Cursed in Bush's post 9/11 America with an actual angry Arab in our band, and really hot opinionated things that were like pretty contrary to that moment, especially in the States, especially in like New York. Um, but that was then, and this is very much it's me. It's 100% on my end. I'm the one that's up here, and I've just been really lucky, really long, and I get really anxious anyway, kind of traveling in the border, and I'm always generally fine the moment it's over. But there's just not anything protecting you anymore from getting the worst of, like, it's completely down to the whims of the person that's standing there. There's
Right?
a thing here in Toronto at the airport where you go through American customs here that says you're outside of the Constitution of Canada here in American customs, and that's here. So there's things like the second last time I went down there, I missed it by one place in line, just everybody getting taken into secondary questioning. um, I mean, I guess I can say this now because it's really, I'm on kind of a sabbatical until the temperature comes down a little bit and it's a little less fucked up. Um, but I don't know, like there's nothing stopping that. I've got like a long history of, you know, going in, and that shouldn't be a problem for, like, we
Hmm.
know that what we're doing is just like, God, this is not a big deal at all. And it shouldn't be.
Right?
But it's just down to what kind of person becomes a cop. And that person is absolutely deputized to fuck with all the things. Like that dude takes me, looks up me and my American contact, which you have to submit, which is Jimmy, gets SECT, looks up SECT, gets Palestine, pro-choice, pro-trans and queer things, all the shit that they're like actively incentivized now to fuck with and shut down and give you grief. So if I get like a 10-year ban now, which is what you get, it's usually in 10-year chunks, I'd be fucking 60 years old. Even if Trump gets out in the meantime and they pretend all this never happened. I don't think Americans really have as good a sense, but we've been doing this our whole life going down that way, what it feels like going to the American side of the border, getting our cars torn apart our whole lives. Like that part's, it's not like intimidating. It's just like, it sucks. But now it's very much automated. There's like fucking AI, there's tech behind it. So there's just like nothing but like chance stopping it. So it's a little bit of a Russian roulette. And I did go 2 rounds in the last couple months, but I had to make a really hard fucking call. And like, I think I need to like quit while I'm ahead and not wait until the shoe drops and I get fucked for like years and years. Because I don't want to not have this in my life. And that's what it would happen. So in the meantime, we did a bunch of shows up here. We're looking at Europe, the UK, possibly South America, anywhere else to try and kill the time. But honestly, man, like we did the Canadian shows, like, okay, then what? This thing is not burning itself out, you know? So I don't know. I may yet go for it some more, but it's just like absolutely, and it wouldn't be any different now if you try to go the official way, because bands like the UK subs, like obviously way bigger bands, but Propaganda got it. The UK subs got it. They got actually denied the proper channels based on what they're about. So, I mean that, I wouldn't want to, and I don't care to hide that, but they immediately, that's like, if everybody's everyone's the Antifas, what about the actual ones, right? Like, yeah, they'll find it. It's there. It's real. It's what we are.
You know, I was traveling to India and they were like, you need to apply for a visa. And I was like, all right, you know, and then everybody else was able to get 10-year visas to India except me. I was only able to get a 6-month visa. And everybody's like, whoa, what's the problem? I got one. And I was like, their reasoning was because at one point in my life, I was in the military, but then I did some more investigation and I realized I was involved in political activism post-military. And I was like, that's a big red flag for the travel authorities. Like if you have, and I was like, oh, well, this completely makes sense now. You know, I was like, well, shit, their official reason was because of the service, but the actual reason was because I was some sort of agitator at one point in my life. And that whole situation, you know, it's like the misunderstanding of hardcore and punk rock, you know, like I think there's free speech for a reason. I think that, you know, we should be able to say what we feel. I don't really know how Canada's constitution works as far as that's concerned, but like, go ahead.
Well, we're not too far behind you, honestly. We're not really a bastion of liberalism like it might seem. Like it's very vulnerable to corruption. And I mean, Trump to this day doesn't fucking matter. He's not a person that matters. He's like a reality TV idiot. But what he got away with matters a lot. And it's like a blueprint that can be replicated anywhere and now is being replicated anywhere to the exact same effects, like the same combination of culture war buttons, control of media and press. I mean, Hungary, Brazil, Argentina, anywhere in the fucking world, Italy have like proto-fascists now. So we have aspects of that all through here. The Midwest, Alberta has a premier, like a governor, that very much is going that way. And people really respond to it on, sadly, simplistic, you know, bullshit and manipulation like that. So honestly, the next election could get us a right wing, like a conservative, you know, politician. And ours is less extreme, but the same factors are there left and right. And we're right here. So sadly, it's not, you can't take for granted that we're going to be this way for very long, you know? So yeah, we're not that far. We're vulnerable to the exact same shit happening because it's global, man. It's like everywhere now.
Well, and that's the thing people don't understand either. It's like left and right. It almost, you know, I have my feelings on certain things. I lean certain ways on some things and certain ways on the other. But then when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, it's like this is all just like being pushed ultimately in one direction. This is all, these are like
Yeah.
actors on both sides of the fence, where it's just like eh, they're almost setting us up for like a one world situation, where it's just like there will be, you can't fight, where are we going to go to? Where are we going to go? The moon,
Yeah.
Mars,
Right.
like you can't just like
No,
leave,
like yeah, you got a lot of oligarchs everywhere and like very small the concentration of power. It's kind of ironic and funny how much like the right in the US talks about the elites, but like what the fuck is the elites but a concentration of power and wealth in the hands of a small, ever smaller number of people. That's exactly what they are, right? So, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how we all get out of this, but we definitely don't stop screaming about it now, you know, because it's like
Yeah.
every dead Kennedy song come to life now in reality at the
Right.
end of the
Right.
day.
Well, I have my feelings on that, but to kind of switch it up a little bit as far as with your relationship with movies, you work for Vinegar Syndrome,
I
which,
do.
as I had mentioned at the top of the hour, Vinegar Syndrome, they do some really awesome restorations on some obscure and out of print movies, and you guys actually did one here recently called The Keep, which
Oh God,
it's
that
got
was a
Jurgen
big
Prochnow.
deal. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Jurgen Prochnow and was it Gabriel Byrne? And I'd never heard of this movie, and I don't think a lot of people had heard of it. And
yeah.
you said it was a big deal. So talk about a little bit how you got the job with Vinegar Syndrome, and then kind of what your duties are, and then you know let's talk about movies a little bit. What have you been watching? What have you been listening to? What have you been
Sure.
reading? What do you got?
Sure. Well, I worked in like a cult video store for a really long time here for like 15 years called Suspect. That was a very beloved kind of place. Dusty, just a lot of like exploitation and docs, international horror, a little bit of everything. And I was working in a record store, and the person that manages the Toronto Vinegar Syndrome had been running we were their Canadian warehouse for about 5 years before all this, where we'd ship out
Mhm.
all their Canadian orders, or he would there. And just like kind of chance run in while when I was working a record store job because they were looking to expand it and open a store. They already had one in Connecticut where they're based, and there's one in Denver that's been there for a while. And just as of recently, there's one in Pittsburgh too. So yeah, it just kind of helps start, I guess, the store, but really like ordering the music and kind of curating the music side of things was mainly um, that was me at start. But really, there's only about like 5 or 6 of us there. I don't know, sort of a little bit of everything, but like between what I had done for all those years and all the time spent in record world, it's just like both of them in one place is about as good as it gets for me and work now.
Totally.
And there's like a body of stuff about like knowledge and like a library of things and anecdotal things in my head that are only good for like exactly this. And my head's
Yes.
full of things about that and
Yeah.
New French
Yeah.
Extreme and every like scumbag like exploitation movie. So it was like, yes, please, please. And yeah, no,
Michael Winner and stuff like that.
there's
You
yeah,
know
for
Michael
sure.
Winner?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But the keep was a really big one. We do a lot of good sort of smutty, fun cheese. Like that's like half of Vinegar Syndrome's thing. They started out
Right.
with adult with like 70s porn and things and kind of moving different directions. And now there's a whole lot of like whole lines of films that are, really specialized. But once in a while, the owners and the people that run the company are just like all day long, like they're obsessives and they're like finding out, trying to track down, rarities all the time. And they're really good at it because we don't even get to know. And we're like protected by not by our ignorance of what's going to be in a box when we open it. We don't know any more than anybody else what's going to happen.
No
Which is a
way.
lot of their business model. So when it's like, Jesus, the fucking keep, and the keep was a really big one because there's some stuff like that. Looking for Mr. Goodbar recently too, that skipped. I mean, from like VHS was the last time they were out. And sometimes it's because of
Yeah.
like rights to some things. Like I know Goodbar had some trouble with rights or music. The Keep, I'm not sure what the story was, but it had never been on DVD. So this is lots of
No.
stuff that we had like DVDRs or burns of at the video store I worked at for a long time, like real obscurities. We'd replace them when a real version would come out, but how many things just never get there? So yeah,
Right.
that's a really great movie though too. Like once in a while, they're more like intense. Like that one really is good. Let's Scare Jessica to
Yeah.
Death was one of my favorite movies in the world.
That
Anyway,
was excellent. Yeah.
yeah. Once in a while, it's one like that, or Good Bar as well. That gets really like a bit of pride. Like we did that. So I like the fun, cheesy
Yeah.
stuff too, and I like just slasher, goofy monster movies a ton. But I really
Oh
like
yeah.
good, like just like head fuck sort of like 70s, mostly gritty cinema of all stripes,
Right.
Schrader, all those kind of
Oh,
things. Yeah.
oh, totally, totally. And what was
Yeah.
your relationship with film growing up? Like, what do you remember seeing as a young child that kind of,
Well,
piqued your interest into movies?
well, this really relates to music just as much, but I was in a really Christian household, like a very Catholic scenario, even though it was like a single
Sure.
parent one. So it was very much the forbidden fruit, like all the unsavory things. So in the way that in the like later 80s, definitely the weird kids would all watch the same like five crazy cult movies like Rocky Horror, Eraserhead, like the bangers, The Shining,
Right.
Ilsa, all those things. I think one of the first ones I ever got, just based on what complete chance, like what was like on a shelf at a video store that was down the street. Phantasm 2 was a real big one for me. Like I saw that
Oh,
before I saw Phantasm 1.
and
Um,
that's a hard one to find if you're talking about rights.
yeah, I bet. Yeah. So I don't know. I
I,
just
I
loved dark movies, but go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I'd seen the first Phantasm, and I was never able to watch the second one. But they always like Shutter. Shutter always had Phantasm 1, 3, 4, and then 5, but they never had
That
the
too.
second one. And
That's
and
weird.
then I went to go look for it everywhere, and I was like, well, it's probably one of those situations where they want you to actually purchase a copy of the film, but you couldn't fucking
Maybe.
find it forever, like
Damn.
on an actual streaming service. Yeah, or I don't even
Yeah.
think physical copies were that abundant, but I think they worked something out with that. But so
Yeah.
you had a very like religious household, and you were kind of restricted or forbidden from seeing certain things. What,
Yeah.
besides those ones that you mentioned, like as far as a theatrical experience, like what is something that absolutely just blew your mind when you saw it, like on a big screen?
This is gonna sound really like a weird thing. There was a Clint Eastwood movie called Firefox, and I
Oh
was maybe
yeah,
the. Do you remember that shit? Because I was
yeah.
like young.
Where's
I
the
would be
pilot?
early. Yeah, early '80s movie. I was a kid, but I remember it was like I think what my mom thought it wasn't going to be that kind of like dark or violent. But there's some weird thing with a laser that just like shoots through like 10 people at a time. That might just went wow. Um, but that's very random. We
Yeah,
went and saw there was like repertory cinemas here, like second run theaters, and we'd watch like Rocky Horror, The Wall, Eraserhead, those kind of things over and
mm,
over, over and over and over. Ilsa, just like weird, unsavory, strange, kind of lurid movies like that.
sure.
Yeah.
With I have to ask this question too. Was there a period where you played in the band Fucked Up?
Yeah, the very beginning. Ruination, there was a band I played in called Ruination, which was at the same time as The Swarm and another local band they played in here. And Mike, that ended up the guitarist and kind of main like driving guy for Fucked Up, played bass in Ruination, and he was like a bit younger than we were, but went on the road a lot. It was a bit of a test of fire. We all were very like way too intense about it, and we were all too Black Flag about it, and we just were going on like 40-day fucking tours that could have been like
Oh,
6 shows.
jeez.
Yeah, we're like, I think this is how we're supposed to do this, so we hate fucking life. Um, I hate that imparted the wrong things on them, because the way they do Fucked Up for years was very much like crazy tunnel vision, to the point that it blows my mind. I just sang on a recent Fucked Up thing that's current, and it's
Oh,
so elaborate. It's amazing to me that they can even keep that much stuff straight. It's gonna have to be like
right.
3 LPs long, just one thing. So I love watching them do that stuff. But I played at the time. It wasn't like we're making this. I mean, everyone thinks that all our bands are the way they know them now, that they were like that then. But really, it was just like one of 10 things you and all your friends had going on, you know? So Ruination was like, was one band, and then Fucked Up, I was drumming. It was like me, Josh, and Mike. Just everyone switches instruments and makes up a bunch of songs. I wasn't in it very long. I think I'm told that I played a couple shows that I honestly, there was so much happening. I don't even remember. There was a lot going on back then, but no, it was just like the first kind of formative moments of Fucked Up. And now they've been a really incredible band for like 2 straight decades. So it's awesome watching people,
Yeah.
you know, grow up when they're the young kids and then they become the old kids and just accomplish that much. It's awesome. So
absolutely. The reason I brought that up was because I caught them on the Chemistry of Common Life tour, and I was curious as to whether or not you were involved with the band at that point. But
just the very formative first moments, really.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and Damien brought up David Cronenberg, and he had like a whole conversation with the audience about David Cronenberg films.
Cool.
I was like,
that's a Toronto hero. 2 Toronto heroes.
Toronto legend, man. Yeah, absolutely. I love I love his films. I think he's, you know, probably one of my favorites, especially The Fly. Like The Fly is just like so heartbreaking. Yeah.
I think Scanners is my top for him.
Oh yeah. Best head explosion ever.
Oh god. And Michael Ironside, Canadian actor, just dark. He's just got a darkness around him.
Oh yeah.
What's the hospital one? He's in a really great slasher in a hospital. Sorry. Visiting
Hours. You know, I've never seen that. No.
And he's great in it. Okay. Just a menace. Yeah. Cronenberg's awesome. His son is awesome.
I definitely like Michael Ironside. I think he is, just a really like unique character actor. He's got that really deep, gravelly voice, you know, and just super intimidating. It's been a while since I've watched Scanners. I think I want to revisit that one of these days. But you also mentioned Giallo. Like you like a lot of Giallo films, and we were talking a little bit about Mario Bava, and like, you know, I fell down the rabbit hole of Giallo when I was, probably out when I was living out in LA. Like I'd seen Suspiria before, which is classified as a Giallo sometimes, even though I don't think it really checks a lot of the boxes of that. But, you know, what was your discovery of that like, and what are some of your kind of favorites within that genre?
I don't love it as much as some that are really obsessives for it. Like I think Giallo, I think of it as like a quantity of Giallo. Like it's a vibe. Sort of like you invest in a quantity of this kind of vibe. More than it's any one story. Like Giallo meant yellow, like pulpy, smutty pocket books, you know, like disposable, smutty stories.
Right.
So I think in light of that, trash, like on purpose, good trash. I like things like Argento, fine, not as much as some. I really like Fulci. I think my favorite of anything is The Beyond. I think that's the one that's hard to top.
Okay.
I like just like psychological, like head fuck sort of ones. I love Sergio Martino. And like All the Colors of the Dark, especially. And at that point, it's almost like psychedelia. It's so out there. It's just like psychedelic almost. I like all the just like Strangler sort of, you know, creepy stories. But The Beyond is the one, I think, if I had to have a favorite ever. It's just that's so ambitious. The ending and everything is so like, I lately saw like a print of it and it holds up so well. It's just eternally great. I think that's my favorite one of all of them. Apocalypse.
I need to rewatch that one. I need to rewatch that one because I remember seeing it and I don't really remember much because it's been so long. But I've always described Giallo as like classy trash.
Yeah,
like
that's what it's like trying to be.
Yeah, well, but I mean, I don't really know about the novels too much because I can't say that I've ever read one. But just the way that, like, you know, specifically with Argento, like in Tenebrae, where, you know, this is going to sound disturbing, but like when, you know, he's hacking with the knife and like some of the blood sprays are like going up on the wall. It's like art, like it's beautiful, like almost. And I'm like, why should I be liking this in this context, you know? But just the way that he shoots it, like he really kind of captures this, you know, this beautifulness to this. I can't really think of any other word of describing of it. Yeah.
If you ever go to Rome, you can go to Profondo Rosso, his store. There's a Argento shop in Rome called.
What?
Yeah, Profondo Rosso next. If you're ever there, look it up. It's in
Okay.
because Rome is ancient. It's in like an 800-year-old building, or because they're all 800-year-old buildings, and it's got a basement.
What?
This is like basement of horrors they probably set it up like a little theme park originally, like these like people in cages behind a cell, like it's gloomy, but it's actually just dank as fuck because it's like drippy, moist, dark basement for real in Rome in an 800-year-old
Okay.
building. So I think over time, like the natural vibe just kind of got into it, so it's creepy because it's actually sort of like gloomy for real. So
So you've been there?
yeah, yeah, it's awesome. My
Oh,
wife loves
oh
stuff like
wow,
that, and we both went. Yeah,
dude. Oh, that's what I need. I need a Jallo loving wife that likes to go to dank basement stores with me.
yeah. I
Um,
lucked out. I lucked out.
I'm still waiting. What is one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
Oof. Don't look down. Um, yeah, don't look down. I at some point I could get a lot done. I have a lot of confidence problems, whether or not that comes
Mm,
across through music. If I'm given a second to overthink something, it just all feels wrong, and it feels like it's not my place to do it. So the entire time, my whole life, I've been playing music, but every single time is like I have to get out of my own head.
mhm.
Um, so yeah, when you like become aware, when you think too much about it, you give yourself reasons to stop and doubt. So I kind of wish I'd never really, and that then you can very easily slow down. It gets harder to push past it as you go on. So don't look down.
Yeah,
Just do your thing. Let it like learn to let it out reflexively. Just speak your mind. Do your thing. Don't worry if it's right or wrong or if it's good or bad. Just do the next thing differently if you think you need to. That's it.
right. That's
And keep
and
changing.
that's
Don't
really
do
great
one.
advice.
Yeah, like be open to different shit and challenge yourself. Like I know I've done.
Mm,
It feels like I've done one thing my whole life, but it's like every single thing is different. I mean, every project is a different five people. I don't. I walked into ruin. I sorry to SECT. I drove to North Carolina from Ontario, and like I was
oh,
terrified. I'm like, this is basically me really meeting everybody, and like was the
right.
first jamming and recording the first stuff. Like I don't. I'm so far out of my comfort zone. But yeah, don't sink into a comfort zone.
Sure.
That's what
Yeah.
I'd say.
No, that's really great advice. That's fantastic. Um, and like Columbo, I just have to ask one more
Just one
question.
more question.
Just one more question,
I
Peter
couldn't help
Falk.
but notice your car in the driveway yesterday. We're old.
That's a really good impersonation. Yeah. Yeah, we are old. Did you know before I ask this question, did you know that there was actually a Lady Columbo show with what's her
Angie
name?
no.
No,
Angie
not Angie
Dickinson?
Dickinson. Fuck. She went to the same school that I did. Kate Mulgrew from Star
Oh.
Trek Voyager. This was
Oh
like
no.
before she was in Voyager, and they called it like Lady Columbo or something like that. Yeah.
Whoa. I don't
It
think I
it
did.
ran it ran like one season and then they canceled it. Yeah. I didn't know
Shit.
this either, but yeah.
I love Peter
Anyway.
Falk. I love
Yes. Yes.
Cassavetes' Husbands. You know Husbands at all by John Cassavetes? The
Yeah, yeah,
70s.
yeah.
It's just like
Yeah.
a terrifying bender in what feels like real time. It's just like a few days of this group.
Yeah.
Yeah, going off the rails, and Peter Falk. God damn it. He's so great.
He's in Woman Under the or no, what's I'm always make the no, the
Confessions?
one with
No.
Jenna Rollins, women
Under
uh,
the Influence? I'm getting all
there
turned
is
around.
there's an Almodovar film and then there's a Cassavetes film, and I always get the titles mixed up because they're very similar. There's
A
Women
Woman
on the
Under the
Verge of a
Influence
Nervous
is the
Break.
cast.
Women Under the Influence. Okay, yeah.
That's
Where
Cassavetes.
it's basic. Yeah, he's in that one, right?
I believe he's in a few.
Is he the husband?
Shit, man. I don't want to say. I'm getting all confused in my mind.
Well, Jenna,
really
Jenna
like
Rollins. Jenna Rollins in that seems like she's not even acting.
Yeah, I know. It's terrifying movies.
Yeah.
I really like the 70s, like the little bit later ones too. Like I like those really art house early ones, but I love like Husbands is my favorite one of the bunch. I don't know why. It's
Okay.
so hard to sit through. Like it's uncomfortable for real. In a way that
Yeah.
few people can make that happen. Like I think Refn can do things like that, but yeah.
Yeah.
They don't
Oh
make
God,
filmmakers
yeah.
like that. But yeah, what were you
Yeah,
gonna
I'd
say?
say Ari. Well, I was going to say Ari Aster probably is good at making people really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Um, what was Killing of a Chinese Bookie? That was probably
Okay.
my favorite of Cassavetes. Yeah, and I'll definitely have to rewatch Husbands. But as far as stuff that you are watching, reading, and listening to at present, what do you got?
Um, we just watched a really good Welsh TV show called The Red King that was kind of like a Wicker Man sort of story.
Oh,
Um, yeah, it's really weird when you like work in film, like in the world of films. You're surrounded by so much. After a while, it's sort of like an iPod that has like a million things on it, and you listen to the same 10 things.
yeah,
Even when everything is at your fingertips, like my brain at the end of a workday is a little bit sleepy these days.
it's crazy.
Yeah, so I got into just candy in life. Like I liked shit that was really dark and really heavy, way young. And now I'm like, I just fucking need something that's fun, please.
Right.
So it
Yeah.
probably isn't the kind of stuff people would expect. Same with reading, like reading books because of the moment, things that are too on point politically, which is usually what I would want to read about, and they make me mad. Now they're just like really hard to get through because the better that somebody, like someone like Chris Hedges, I absolutely love. But it's like the better that someone spells it out right now, it's like, and yet it's not stopping. So it's only makes me
Right.
a little bit crazy to be like focusing too much on things like that. So
Sure.
in the way that fiction is a bit of escapism, I need like half and half until I can get my the stones back up to just get into the dark stuff. Just the dark stuff is
Sure.
like everyday life now, so it's fucking hard to. I don't know. So I'm liking just some shows that are fun, man. Tim Robinson's just great for me now. I know it's not probably what anyone would expect, but yeah, The Red King was a really good, notable late recent one that we watched. Um, damn, I don't know. I like a lot of just like head fuck sort of movies traditionally, you know.
Same.
But
Yeah.
right now is a head fuck. So
Right.
I'm at a bit of a loss for what to dive into, honestly.
I'll tell you what, as far as levity is concerned, any of
Levity.
the old
Yeah.
Peter Sellers, and
Oh yeah,
any of the
for
old
sure.
Peter Sellers Pink Panther movies, like I throw one of those on and I just kind of forget, like
Yeah. Dude, this is
if
funny. This
if
is right
life
next.
is shitty.
I'm in my bedroom right now, but next to my bed, bouncing all around from books to movies. But Vonnegut is just like medicine because it's just so like whimsical and
Oh,
fun, and
sure.
it's like it's heavy underneath, no doubt, but just
Right.
like it probably like a Peter Sellers scenario in a book.
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah, totally.
yeah,
And I wanted to bring that up actually in that um when I was having this conversation with Scott, your lyrical and writing content almost reminds me of like if like Kerouac or Hunter S. Thompson was a hardcore
wow.
singer. Like
Jeez,
it's just
thanks, man.
very yeah, well, yeah, it's just very like comes from a real like raw, honest place, and like I think it with Day for Night, man, and especially like when you were talking about what the content of the song was about, man, I was like, holy fucking shit! Like I can totally relate to that on just about every level, and like you had mentioned, kind of with the straight edge stuff, like the anthemic stuff was, some of that stuff, it's cool, like, but I always really kind of appreciated like just the real gritty, the real raw, honest stuff. I mean, that's what I appreciate in film. That's what I appreciate in music, and that's what I appreciate in real life. So, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think that comparison is 100% warranted, and I think it's
Well,
fucking fantastic.
oh, thanks, man. I don't know. I don't want to write for someone that I know they agree with me, or assuming that everybody's frame of reference in a room. Like you'll be playing a bar somewhere. Never mind a pile of straight edge kids. There's like an old guy wrapped around the bar, that's sitting there listening to it too. And I've had that guy come up to me and talk after a show. I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. Preaching
Right.
to the choir is one thing, but like, I don't know. Music is for the world around you. I don't want it to be for one
Right.
thing and not any of the other things. And like you're saying, you connected with that particular song because you've been through it. I've been through
Yeah.
it because it's fucking life. Hardcore
Yeah.
is life, you know. So
Yeah.
like for there's somebody for everything that's been through shit, and there's somebody else that like I need to hear from them how I can look differently at shit that I've been through, and cope.
Right.
But it's my coping
100%.
mechanism. So I just try not to think too like I said, don't look down. Like I try not to think to stop it too much at all. Not to
Sure.
overthink it, because that'll just stop all of it. But
Oh,
thank you.
yeah. Oh,
That's
yeah.
really cool to hear. That's all I ever want,
Absolutely,
is
man.
to connect with real people's realities.
Yeah, man. When I saw the line about lithium, I thought back to the Nirvana song Lithium, and Kurt Cobain was in a similar situation in that he was
Dude,
inundated with medication
dude.
his entire life, and I'm just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
I was
know,
given
yeah,
lithium. I
it's
tried
the
to submit.
worst.
Oh
It's the
my
fucking
god, dude.
worst.
I had like
Yeah,
welts. I had like chunks of hair coming out. This is like 2 days in. It's like a heavy metal in your system, and I'm sure like it's
yeah,
appropriate for some things. I mean, medication isn't all just bad because it's medication. Like there's things. I had a really bad back injury at the very beginning. Like SECT was out in mid-March of 2020. We were actually still out on the playing
yeah.
as the pandemic was fully like unfolding. But I had a really bad back injury, just like so, like the beginning of the pandemic, where I was like
Right.
kind of out off. I was off my feet. I ruptured a lumbar disc. Um,
Whoa.
and
I've done
yeah,
that.
it was bad. And I couldn't even get
Yeah.
to a hospital because it was that exact moment where hospitals were like, you couldn't even get an ambulance. There was no such thing up here anyway. But they tried, when I finally did, and they tried to give me Percocet and whatever they give you that's
Oh,
not abusable, whatever the oxy thing is. And I had to be like, man, like this is exactly appropriate to what that's made for. It's that caliber of pain. And I have to not
yeah.
do it. Because if I had done that in March of 2020, it wouldn't have been over in April of 2020. It would have been
Right.
like we were saying about the AA thing in that song. Like that would have been 2 years. And what the fuck would my life be now? Like I'm
Right.
prone to addiction like anybody. That's the reason that I have to just not do it. But
Right.
yeah. So sorry, I don't know how I got on that, but yeah.
No, no, no. I mean, like, I'm with you, man. Like,
Lithium.
and
Some
there's,
more of it.
yeah, lithium. Yeah. Well, it's, I understand certain people react differently to different drugs, but it was not a good one for me. Like, I just felt
Same.
like it was sporadically euphoric. Like, there would be really huge spikes of just
Oh
like
my
feeling
god.
good, and
Just like
then just
swells. Yeah. Even some
crazy.
SSRIs, if you've had much with that, just the antidepressants, some of them, like they're knocking around inside the right department, but they have to hit like one exact nerve that's different in your
Yeah.
brain than anyone else's brain. So like
Mm-hmm.
some things like 5-HTP do the same. Like they almost work, but they just, in Midsommar when the guy just barely misses the rock, the old guy jumps off the cliff.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
It just about
Fuck.
hits, but it just kind of half misses, and it's even worse for you after
Right.
that. And you're just writhing
Yep.
and like almost, it's terrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
know. It's a
Fucking
lifelong
aim.
thing, man. Like I don't know. I've currently, like I said, I've got it down and I'm off most things, but it's not even working for me that well because my anxieties are really hard. I just have to keep really busy.
Sure.
And lately, honestly, work has been my thing to put my head down in for the last couple of years. Because
Yeah.
every time I look up, it's just overwhelming shit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it, man. But well, where can we find you at, and kind of what are some of the projects you got in the works? Is there going to be a new SECT album? And Scott said that you do like basically a solo project where it's just you
Yeah.
playing like all the instruments.
You know what? It's just we're exactly as we're saying. The pandemic hit. All these really rough things happened. There was like intense physical pain, like something really bad happened at that level, that I couldn't do anything about for like 6 months. Emotional pain of a lot of people dying and losing a lot of friends and things over the pandemic. A lot of shit. Watching the world kind of fall apart. I learned at that moment because we didn't know that civilization was even coming back. Like I don't know how well everybody remembers what 2020 felt like, but like we did not know where anything was going. So
Right.
hardcore would be like band life would be my vent, and I didn't have it. And honestly, on that Plagues Upon Plagues, there's that song. It says, "Where was my vent when I needed it?" It's that. It's literally about the pandemic. But I learned to play guitar, because because I'd been meaning to my whole life. I'm like, well, I think the world might be over. I'm not sure. I have to process some things. And the only way I've ever known how is
Sure.
through music. I don't even know what that music's going to sound like. I can't even play this fucking thing. So I started something called Unwell, and it's
Unwell.
literally,
That's what he
yeah,
was. Yeah.
it's literally the process of me learning to play and record at the same time. Some of it's really mellow and kind of dark. Some of it's loud. Not much of it sounds like the things people would expect, but I didn't really have any plan. It's just like song by song had to kind of get out for me to process that. So I did that once live last year, and we're looking at doing some stuff next year. Again, with some friends here, they helped me like put together like a lineup to play it live, and terrifying to play guitar and sing at the same time when you never have. So even though I've been playing for like 3+ decades, I might as well be like a 16-year-old in front of his first show, just scared shitless of it. Which, like I said, is a challenge. Always do something different that is out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
So there's Unwell. There will absolutely be more SECT. It's just like you don't stop at moments like this, but you definitely may have to like recalibrate around like the threat scenario of, the new realities. So we may have to adapt, not stop, but definitely adapt. So we'll
Mhm.
play, we'll absolutely, I hope we're going to write more. I say that, but it's those guys that have to crank out an entire record of songs. So it's really, with Catharsis being busy, Earth Crisis, Fall Out Boy, with all the bands everyone in SECT plays in, Steve is in a bunch of bands as well. We're kind of letting those bands do catch up, for the stuff they couldn't do for a few years there. And
Sure.
because we're all, there's nothing to prove, there's nothing to achieve with SECT. This, like, it just is. We're all, like 50-year-old dudes. And I love that about it. Like, there's nothing but to hang out with your friends, get back together a month later and do it again, go eat food and talk shit and have fun. So I really need that to still be in my life. So in whatever form, I'm not sure. It's just a matter of the states for me for now, for
Sure.
obvious reasons. I think obvious
Right.
from
Right.
this side of
Right.
the border anyway. So yeah, Unwell and that for the moment are the two. And there's going to be some more Burning Love, I believe. We played a festival last year. The reunion was at a fest, and it was absolutely great. But it was part of a whole festival, so a lot of our friends and people couldn't really. It wasn't that accessible to just people for like a cheap regular show. So we may do
Right.
one more weekend next year. It will also just be up here, of just
Oh
more
yeah.
regular DIY shows. So yeah,
Awesome.
as far as I can see, that's what's on the horizon.
Well, I hope you guys get down this way again. And I know that
I'm sure we
if
will,
when
man.
you do, yeah, well, I know that when you do, it'll probably be again a little bit more easier, seeing as how Scott and Jimmy are out here. So yeah, would
Absolutely.
definitely love
Yeah.
to catch you guys live, and I'm looking forward to what you guys are doing here in the future. And I'm going to be sure to post all the links to Spotify, Instagram, all that good stuff to be able to support you guys. And
Awesome.
I want to thank everybody for coming to the stream. As I had mentioned earlier, do me a favor, like, comment, share, subscribe, click on that bell for notifications. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, give us a rating. That would be awesome too, because, when you actually engage with some of these things, and, it helps out in the algorithm, it helps people to discover this show and discover all the amazing artists and collaborators with this show. So it's free. It just takes one little click. That's all you got to do. So help us out. Help us out. That would be great. And I forgot to mention at the top of the show, because I was talking about John's book and Lou's benefit. I have a merchandising company. It's Hell's Heart Merch Co. Going over to hellsheartco.bigcartel.com. Use the code podcast for 20% off your final order. If you like movies, if you like hardcore, we've got some fan-inspired movie T-shirts, and we did a run of some band shirts for a few hardcore bands. They're actually movie mocks, so that's kind of our shtick. If you like a band and you like a movie, we'll do like a little movie mock on there. So, but go on over and support. They're Bella Canvas, Next Level Tri-Blend. They feel soft. They're fucking amazing. I think you'll like them. This is one. This is a 1984 one. Anybody that's watching from the John Hurt, Richard Burton movie. But and again, like I said, just please support SECT on all their platforms. Yeah, I want to thank everybody for coming to the show. Namaste, job bless, be good. Thanks so much, Chris.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
Hell's Horn, life's a game.